So in this masterclass, we're going to kind of talk about how to write articles with SEO in mind, and kind of how that leads into outranking your competitors so that you can get more leads and in turn sell more. So my name is Leanna. I am a serial entrepreneur and a founder of a few companies. One of them is Change Media Co., which is a digital marketing agency focused on helping real estate professionals and small business owners. It's based here in Las Vegas. That's where I am right now. It's not 100 degrees today, so yay, that's great. But I also own two other businesses. One of them is a real estate investment firm with my husband where we buy, sell, and flip houses. And then I own an online resource called Nevada Moms that is based in northern and southern Nevada that basically helps families with local resources in the area and kind of shares different local businesses and happenings with them so that they have something fun to do with their family. I've been in the digital marketing space for about a decade now, and I've helped a lot of people grow through social media, SEO, website design and development, etc. If you're familiar with Las Vegas, you know that we have casinos here, and I actually lived in Reno, Tahoe for about 8 years and did the digital marketing for 3 of the major casinos up there, the El Dorado, the Silver Legacy, and Circus, as well as several small businesses there before I moved down here. So you can find me on Instagram at Mrs. Leanna Carson or Change Media Co., as well as like LinkedIn, Facebook, all the good stuff. So what we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about what SEO is. What is it? How should it play into your content marketing strategy? And like, why do we even really care what that is? Like SEO, it sounds like such a technical term. Then we're going to talk about article preparation. And this is literally me walking you step by step through the process that I go through to prepare for writing an article, how to find keywords, you know, what on-page versus off-page SEO is and all that good stuff. And then I'm going to tell you and share my favorite SEO tools with you that not only help you with SEO, but your content marketing strategy. And then we'll go and answer a bunch of questions. I want it to be very open. So if you have a question as we are going throughout, please feel free to unmute and ask it, or you can hold your questions till the end. I want this to be very fluid to where if you have a question on something we're talking about, feel free to just ask it then and there so you don't forget. On average, companies who blog produce 67% more leads per month. Now, this is a crazy statistic because it's like, how do you even know that that's possible? Well, you have to realize that when it comes to blogging and articles, a blog is basically an article that's on a section of your website that's called a blog section. A lot of people find those blog posts through search engine results, whether they are on a search engine like Google or Bing or a search engine like Pinterest. And Molly talks a lot about this and how she loves Pinterest. And Pinterest is really cool because a lot of people may think it's a social media tool, but it's actually a search engine, not a social media tool. And over the last year, at the beginning of 2021, they actually transitioned to kind of be a direct competitor with search engines like Google. So there's something that's really important to keep in mind as we move forward into the rest of 2021. And as you're planning out your content marketing strategy to make sure that you're including Pinterest in there. So what is SEO and why the heck do we care? So SEO means search engine optimization. It basically allows you to, it is a method to improve your website to increase your visibility across different search engine platforms like Google, Bing, Pinterest, DuckDuckGo, all of the search engines out there. I like to look at SEO as like brownie points. SEO brownie point 1, brownie point 2, etc. etc. The more brownie points you have, the better your footprint, the larger your footprint is on the internet, which means that you're more likely to be found. And hopefully once you are found, it's easy for people to come to your website and stay on your website. Like I mentioned above, it's not only for search engines, but also social media. So I talked about, the search engines, but also on social media, Instagram actually has their own SEO, as well as like Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Social media in terms of Instagram is probably the heaviest that relies on SEO right now. And when you go and Google something, typically if in the first like 2 to 3 search results, you're going to see an option that links to someone's Instagram. If you're like looking for a specific business or a specific person on Google, it will typically show that. And also, I won't really get into this too much, but Instagram also started rolling out a new feature. When you go to the Discover page, if you start typing in, let's say, home decor, instead of just seeing like hashtag home decor or home decor accounts, you'll actually see a search option that just says home decor, and it actually pulls in a bunch of different accounts that have used home decor in their alt tags, their hashtags, or in their captions. So they're really trying to roll out their own version of SEO, which we won't get into too much in terms of social media, but I wanted to share that with you guys. So how does SEO work? So what happens is these search engines have these bots that are robots, not real people, but they go to crawl and crawl all of these different pages on the web so that they can index them. That's what it's called, indexing. It's not a term that you really necessarily need to know, but that's what they call it. So if you see that, it basically just allows them to be like, oh, Molly has a really great blog post on Pinterest marketing. She knows what she's talking about, and we can index her as a result that leads to Pinterest marketing for XYZ. So they really want to focus on relevant, authoritative pages that offer an efficient search experience. And as you can see on the right, I did include an example of a search Instagram caption ideas, which we'll actually dive into a little bit more today, just so you could see the different results that are on there. And something to keep in mind in this is the way that the results look as we're going through the rest of this masterclass today. The dates that you can see, May 21st, June 8th, they're all in 2021, and just kind of looking at them and seeing what that overview looks like so that it's easier for us to digest the rest of today. So is SEO hard to do? You don't need to be an expert. Obviously, being an expert is great, but as business owners, especially entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to be all of it. We have to be the digital marketing expert, the social media expert, the Pinterest expert, until we are at a point in time in our business that we are able to hire and outsource those things. But today we're going to go over the basics just to get you started. Now, by no means is this super in-depth about everything that has to do with SEO, but we're really going to focus on on-page SEO today. So going into on-page versus off-page SEO. Today, we're going to focus on on-page. Like I said, that's on the left-hand side. And on-page SEO are things that are on your actual website. So that includes keyword optimization, meta description, internal and external linking, title tags, alt tags, URL structure, slug, your SSL and site structure, and we'll get into each of those. Off-page SEO includes local SEO. That's like directories like Yelp or Google My Business. Other backlinks, your domain authority, social signals like shares, pay-per-click, which is like ads and guest posting on other people's site. Like I said, we're going to talk about on-page today, and we're actually going to talk about everything on the on-page except for the SSL and site structure, as those don't directly relate to actually writing a blog article. And there's something that's a little bit more technical, but is really easy to identify if you're looking to dive deeper into those. So we're going to dive into section 2, article preparation. I promise it really isn't that hard once you kind of identify how to write an article and using some guidelines that I'm going to share with you. It is really, really easy. So we're going to dive into that. So first, we're going to talk about keyword research. Now, that means what should you be writing about? What do you sell? What common questions do you get asked from people that follow you, from potential clients, from current clients, and what topics does your business revolve around? So this is just an example. I'm in the digital marketing space. I get asked a lot about social media, specifically Instagram, and posting on Instagram, and how to plan an Instagram content calendar, hashtags that someone should be using on their posts, what are good reel ideas, or what kind of audio should they be using for Instagram reels. I also get asked a lot about content marketing, SEO, and blogging fall under content marketing. This entire masterclass does. How to write for SEO, what type of blogging works, how can you have a successful blog? So these are just questions that you would probably get asked, not maybe these specific questions, but in your specific industry, you get asked these questions daily. And these are things that you should jot down. If someone asks you a question, pull out your notes in your phone and just jot it down, because it's probably something that can help you with a blog article idea in the future. So we're going to hop over to Uber Suggest, and Uber Suggest is an SEO tool that I personally love using. I have used several in the past, including SEMrush, and they are just so expensive for either a small agency or an individual entrepreneur who maybe has 1 to 3 employees. Uber Suggest is a very affordable option, and they also have a free plan as well. And I'll share a little bit more about that as we get into the SEO tools. But what we're going to do is I'm just going over to Uber Suggest. After I had logged into my account, I am looking on the left side of the sidebar where the keyword analyzer is, specifically under keyword ideas. And that's what we're going to dive into to figure out what keywords we should be looking for and how we should determine what focus keyword our article should be about. So I searched for social media for small business, just as an idea, because I wanted to give you guys a broader scope of what this really looks like. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see keyword suggestions, and those are basically all keywords that are suggested by Uber Suggest that you could potentially use as a focus keyword. Now, the second is the volume, the CPC, and paid difficulty. The volume, that means how many approximate searches per month people are typing that specific keyword, so this keyword, into Google and getting a return on it. So as you can see, social media for small business is searched around 880 times per month. Now, the higher this is, that's great, but obviously that could be a more broad topic. The more narrow it is, you might see less searches, but they might be more qualified leads. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. CPC means cost per click, and that's actually the cost per click that it costs someone to do an ad on Google. So when you're searching something on Google and you see those ad options at the very top, that's how much those people are paying for someone to click on it. So, when you search something and you type in IKEA, and IKEA has a Google ad for themselves that just goes to IKEA.com, they might be paying a certain amount, whether it's $1, $12, every time someone clicks that, just so people go to their website. It's a very short-term result. It's not long-term, but people do like it. And it's important to note that as you're looking to see what keyword you should use and how much people are willing to pay to rank for that keyword. The paid difficulty obviously goes in turn with the cost per click, and we kind of ignore that column because I typically focus on all organic on-page SEO. And then what we really care about is this difficulty of ranking. So as you can see, it's yellow, green, and red. What we care about is the green and the yellow. Typically, I like to go for anything that's under 35 to 40 in the SEO difficulty. The more green it is, the easier it is to rank for it. The more red it is, the harder it is to rank for. So as you can see, our top 3 choices on here are going to be social media for small businesses, social media and small business, and social media for small business marketing. Now, the volume of those is between 720 and 880. It's not amazing, but it's not horrible into where it's not really getting a lot of searches. And so when it comes to choosing a specific keyword that I would use if I was writing an article on social media for small business, I most likely would go with the middle option, which is social media and small business. Now, the reason for that is it still gets a decent amount of searches, 720, and the SEO difficulty is 15. Now, why wouldn't I go with the one that's social media for small business marketing that has an SEO difficulty at 26? The main reason for that is the fact that the CPC, so the cost per click, is much higher for that one, which means there's more competitors trying to rank for that in a paid ad spot, and I don't really want to have as much competition. So social media and small business is a better option for me. Our example today that we're going to use, as you saw a few slides before in that Google search, is Instagram caption ideas. Now, the reason I'm using this is because I actually have a product, a digital product that is 101 plus social media prompts that you can use on like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever you're using. And so I need to create a blog post around this. And I figured this is a great opportunity to kind of share that with you guys on what that would look like. So I'm choosing Instagram caption ideas. I actually chose the first one, which is just that keyword that I typed in. It has about 8,100 searches per month, which is really great. No one is trying to fight to pay for an ad spot. You can see it's $0. So the paid difficulty is 1, and the SEO difficulty is 16, which means it's a great option for me to rank for, considering the difficulty is low and the search volume is high, and there's really no competition in the midst of that. So that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. If anyone has questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. I know this is kind of technical, but this is kind of the process. And once you do it a few times, it's pretty easy. Molly can attest to that. I've showed her this before. Alrighty. Andrea, do you have a question? No. Okay. So then we're going to start writing. So using your topic and keyword, let's start writing. So the keyword is Instagram caption ideas. The topic, we really want to share Instagram caption ideas that any small business owner can use. And I always like to have a title draft, which this isn't necessarily going to be the exact title, but it just keeps my mind creative and flowing as I'm going throughout this process. So I'm going to use Instagram caption ideas for small businesses. Now, a pro tip I always say is to keep a copy of your article in Google Docs or Dropbox in case you ever need a backup. Depending on what CMS platform you are on, whether that's Squarespace or WordPress, there can always be something that happens to it. So I like to keep a copy just in case you create a new site and you can't transfer those over or whatever it may be. Always write in Google Docs first and just save it or wherever is best for you that works for your business. So some guidelines to keep in mind as you're writing your article. And I actually have a SEO checklist that I sent over to Molly that you guys can have for free. It is something that I just utilize every time I'm writing an article to make sure that I am hitting all the points that I want to hit. And honestly, once you do this a few times, you really won't need the checklist because it'll just become second nature to do this. So incorporate your keyword. You want to make sure that keyword, Instagram caption ideas, is in the title, the first 3 sentences, and in the last paragraph, as well as a few times throughout where it feels natural to do so. And it should be pretty easy because if you're talking about that topic, it should kind of flow as you are writing. You want to use short sentences. 1 to 3 sentences per paragraph is pretty ideal, which if you go back to your high school or college days, you're like, what the heck? A paragraph is like 4 to 5 sentences, not 1 to 3. Well, when it comes to writing for the public audience, typically a standard reading level you're going to see is between 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And so I always like to write for like a 5th grade reading level. It just makes it easier for someone to digest, especially when they're on the go or they're on their phone. We all know that something that is on desktop, when it translates to mobile, looks very different. And so 1 to 3 sentences on a computer might look very short, but when you're looking on a phone, it might be the whole screen. So we want to just make sure that it's very easy to digest for your reader so that they have a good user experience when they're on your website. The length of the articles, you want to be around 1,000 to 2,000 words. What's really interesting is that the most highly ranked articles are about 3,500 words. Now, a lot of people don't like to read that long, which is normal. And so people kind of hover to articles that are around 1,000 words in terms of digesting them. But in terms of ranking, people like to write longer articles. So I like to have a mix of both on my site. And I try to make sure that it's as close to 1,000 as possible. And if we get to, 2,000, great. But I want to make sure that it's quality content versus fluff. If you're doing fluff, people are going to bounce and leave your site. And if you're putting quality content out there, then there's an ability to keep people on there and then eventually link internally so that they can go to other places on your website. You want to make sure you're using the use of headings and bulleted or numbered lists. This is pretty easy to do because every basically blog post that you do needs to have headings, and we'll kind of talk about how many of each that you should have. And then bulleted number lists, while these aren't always necessary, sometimes they can be helpful. So if you have a blog post that maybe is a little bit closer to that 2,000 word or 3,000 word length, you can use a bulleted or numbered list to do like a table of contents. And it allows people to jump from your table of contents straight to where they need to be, so that they don't spend time mindlessly scrolling and then get frustrated and leave. And bulleted and numbered lists for a table of contents does include the use of like an anchor tag, which is a little bit more technical and we're not really getting into that, but they're pretty easy to do. So if you come up to that time and you need help, please feel free to reach out to me via email or Instagram, or Google is always a great option. They have a lot of articles on how to do an anchor tag for a table of contents. And then the last thing we want to make sure that we include in every article that we post are backlinks, and we need two minimum, one external and one internal, which we'll get into a little bit later. So after you've written your entire article, you're ready to publish. You've written it in Google Docs. You've made sure that your guidelines kind of are matched and checked off your checklist, and you're ready to add it to your website and either schedule it out to be published this week or next week. So let's do it. Add the article to your CMS platform, which CMS stands for Content Management System, and you're going to just add it under post. And I prefer WordPress. I feel that it's the best CMS platform for blogging, and Squarespace is decent as well, but there are limitations to it. And so today we're going to focus heavily on the WordPress side, but mostly everything that I can share with you today, you can do on Squarespace. There's just a few things that you may be unable to do. And there's other CMS platforms out there like Weebly, Wix, Show It, all of those. I personally am not a fan of any of those. I always highly recommend WordPress or Squarespace if you have a second option. And other than that, I'm kind of like, all right, you got to figure something else out if you're trying to make this to where you can rank. So like I said, we're going to talk about on-page SEO today. We already did keyword optimization, so woohoo! Now we're going to get into the rest of them: meta description, internal and external linking, title tags, alt tags, URL structure, and it is going to be really fun. So if you have a question, please feel free to ask. So what's the difference between internal and external links? Internal links are links to other pages that are on your website. That could be a relevant blog post, a related sales page that's going to sell that digital product or service that you're trying to get out there, or a contact page. And external links are linked to pages that are not on your website. So a source for data or statistics you shared. Maybe you shared that 1 in 5 people purchase a car every day or something like that. You can link to that relevant source or statistic, or another external link could be affiliate links. The one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want a ton of external links, because we want people to stay on your site. So internal is better. I always like to do something on my blog post that I create a section that's like a related articles you might enjoy. And it's basically a horizontal line, related articles you might enjoy, in 3 bullets that basically link to other internal blog posts that are relevant to the blog post that the person is currently reading, but that they might also enjoy without having to worry about finding specific words in the text that are relevant to a specific blog post. And I just put that on there. It's really easy to do. And it basically just keeps people jumping into pages onto your website like they're going down a deep, dark rabbit hole, and they can't get out because they're loving your content so much. That's what we want. So now that we talked about keyword optimization and internal and external linking, we're going to get into the bulk of everything else, which is typically all in the same area you can find it. So this is a featured snippet that you typically see on Google. You can see that there is the URL, which is at the very top. Then there's the title tag, which is the 101 plus Instagram caption ideas for small businesses. And then you see the meta description, which is looking for the best Instagram caption ideas for small businesses. Check out this list of over 100 captions that you can personalize. That entire thing is called the featured snippet, and that is what is shown on search engines like Google or Bing. So the title tag. When it comes to the title tag, you want to make sure that it doesn't match your article title exactly. So my article title in this scenario was Instagram caption ideas for small businesses. So what I want to make sure my title tag does is show something that's a little bit different than that. So 101 plus Instagram caption ideas for small businesses, or Instagram caption ideas with a little bar line that says Change Media Co. And so the formula for that is I always like to do your primary keyword or title, and then that like line, and then your brand name. However, it doesn't always work out because your title tag should only be between 50 and 60 characters. I say 50 to 55 is ideal because the longer it is, it either is not going to show it on Google or it won't even let you put it in when you're creating that article. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to the title tag. The next section is they call it permalink on here, but it's your URL structure or your slug. So with that permalink or URL slug, you want to make sure that you include your keyword, that it's super easy to read. It contains around 3 to 5 word possible, and the ideal length is about 60 to 75 characters. So when you're thinking about the URL, if you're on my website, which is changemediaco.com, there's that slash and then the slug. That's what this would be. So slash Instagram caption ideas small businesses, which if we go back 2 slides, you can see right here at the very top. So that's what the URL structure is. Then you're going to go into your meta description. Now, the meta description is super important because this is what people see on Google to decide if they want to click through or not. Now, if this meta description is not good, people are more apt to just scroll by and go to the next search result, which means Google is thinking that you don't really have something good to say on your blog, and they're just going to push your search result down. And we want to be on page 1 of search results, not page 2, not page 3. So we want to make sure that your meta description is great. So why should people click through this search result versus the option above or below yours? You want to make sure that you include your keyword. You want to keep it simple but meaningful. And I always like to go question into an answer. So looking for the best Instagram caption ideas for small businesses, check out this list of over 100 captions that you can personalize. Super simple, very meaningful. They have their struggle that they're trying to solve, their issue, which is their question, and you're basically giving them an answer for it. So I always like to use this formula as my meta description. It's not even a formula, it's just a Q&A that leads people to figure out what they're looking for and know that you have the answer for them. So then we're going to get into your alt text or alt tags. Now this is specifically for images that are on your blog article. And why is this important? Well, if you look on the bottom, you'll see a Google search result, and it's for Instagram caption ideas. And I actually didn't go over to the all results. I went over to the images section, and you can see that there's a bunch of options for results in terms of images. Now, why is this important? Because your alt text allows you to be found through Google searches when people look through images. So if I want my Instagram caption ideas digital product to be shown on here on Google under images, I need to make sure that I have alt text that matches that. So you always want to include a featured or hero image in your blog article. That's the image that shows up first. You know, if you're sharing the link, it's the one that is the preview. You want to make sure that that image, in addition to any other images, have this alt text. Additional images should be found every 250 to 350 words to break up your text, because like I said, again, you know, someone doesn't want to be scrolling through long text, whether they're on desktop or mobile. And so an image kind of breaks that up, and you want to make sure you include this alt text on every image and ensure it's relevant to the article. So what the heck do you put as your alt text? Your caption should be your keyword. So Instagram caption ideas, I would put that in the alt text. If I had 2 focus keywords that I was focusing on, let's say Instagram caption ideas, comma, Instagram caption ideas for small businesses, if I had 2 specific keywords. So I like to put stuff that makes sense to the image that's relevant, because if it's not relevant, again, Google and other search engines will notice that and be like, okay, this doesn't make sense why this image would show up for this. So they're going to bump you down. So you just want to make sure that it's relevant to the image and to the article, and that allows someone to go over and say, oh, yeah, I like that. You know, here's this example of Instagram captions. I'm going to use that. I'm going to put that as alt text so people can find it. So now we've gone over all of on-page SEO, except for, like I said, the SSL and the site structure. Now, I'm going to go into tools I love. Once you've done all that, you're ready to publish, you're scheduling your post, and you're done. So I know it was a lot and it might seem a little overwhelming, but I'm telling you, it is so easy to do. I just broke it down step by step by step so you guys can see it, but it really is so easy. So here's the SEO tools and content marketing tools I love. You can tell someone, share these with anyone you want to, but like they're kind of a good secret because not a lot of people know about them or use them, and they're literally free most of the time. So like I said, I use Ubersuggest. They have a free and a paid version, which you can see. That's what I use today. They also have a Chrome extension that is free, and that's what is on the far right side. Those are if you're searching something on Google, that would pop up on like the sidebar, so you could see that. And if you clicked any of those, it would actually take you to the Ubersuggest website. You only get allotted a certain amount. Previously, it was about 7 searches, I think, a month. That you could use for the Ubersuggest free plan, but they might have changed that. That was a few months ago. I also love Answer the Public. If you are not familiar with Answer the Public, they have a free and paid version as well. When it comes to keyword research, I personally don't use it as much because I really like Ubersuggest, but it's a great alternative if you're looking for more of a question-based focus keyword or a question to use as a title. They have a free and paid version, like I mentioned. Related searches, which are free, they are via Google or Bing. I put 2 little examples on the side here. The first one is when you search something on Google and you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, these are the related searches you're going to see. These are great ideas to just kind of ponder on in terms of keyword research to get a little bit more creative when it comes to finding a specific keyword or coming up with something that's going to be a good title draft. These are really great options. And then the one on the far right is from Bing, which is also at the very bottom of the page. It just doesn't look as aesthetically appealing as Google. Keyword Tool IO is a great keyword research tool. The one thing I do like about it is you can search keywords for not only Google, but Amazon, YouTube, Bing, and tons of other sites. They have free and a paid version. I personally use Keyword Tool IO for YouTube. I do a lot of YouTube videos for my membership, and it allows me to find different keywords that I could easily use on there. So I specifically don't use it necessarily for a blog post, but for other sites that translate into going to my website, I like to use that for. And then Google Trends. I'm sure most of you have heard about Google Trends, but you basically get to see what's hot right now, right in this second, see how many people are searching it, you know, what the interest is over time. You can search you can search last year, this year, everything like that. And so my top 3 would be Ubersuggest, KeywordTool.io, and Google Trends if you're looking for 3 of them, just to check out and see what works for you, because some may work for you, some may not. Some more tools, Google Search Console. So I didn't get too much into this in the article kind of preparation point, but when it comes to publishing your article, once your article is published online, you want to make sure that it's found. And like I said, Google and Bing have these little bots that go and crawl websites. Well, a few things to know. If your website is under like 6 to 8 months old, like a brand new website, or you're just starting to post, it typically takes an additional 4 to 6 months for Google to actually crawl your website. And even then, there's so many websites that are popping up on a daily basis that they might miss yours. So what I like to do is go in and create a Google Search Console account. It's just linked to your Gmail account. It's free. It's similar to Google Analytics, but it's to make sure that your pages can be found. And then you want to connect your they call it a property, which is just your domain name. So whether you're using an HTTPS or an HTTP, you're going to hook that into there, and you're going to inspect any URL that's on your website, and you're going to add it in there. Click the little enter return button on your keyboard, and then this little box is going to pop up that says URL is not on Google or URL is on Google. Now, if it's not on Google, there's a little box, as I said, circled or squared rectangle, that says request indexing, and you're just going to request indexing. So that basically pushes your website up in the queue of all of the other web pages on the internet that aren't prioritized, to make sure that your website can be found. So anytime I have a new blog post, I like to make sure I go to Google Search Console and add it in there. And if it's not indexed or it can't be found yet, request indexing. And I like to just check every so often just to make sure random pages on the website are, because sometimes they're updated and sometimes they're not. And you just want to make sure that those are up to date so that you can continue ranking higher and higher. Like I said, Google Search Console is free. A few other tools that I really like is the Google SERP tool. So that's just the search engine result page, and that's just a preview. So like you can see, you can just preview what your meta description and title tags look like, as well as your URL if you were to put it on Google, just to make sure that nothing is cut off and you can see the character count on there. And then that's a good free one if you are using Squarespace, because I don't think they typically have, not plugins, because Squarespace doesn't do plugins, but like a tool that shows you the character count unless they've changed it. So that's something that would be great for users who are not on WordPress. And then as far as SEO plugins go for WordPress CMS users, I love Rank Math SEO and Yoast SEO. I previously used to use only Yoast, and I switched to Rank Math about 2.5 years ago, and I absolutely love Rank Math. They have free and paid versions. I just use the free one. And as you can see, when I was going way above earlier, when we were going through the meta tags and descriptions, you probably saw like a blurred out green section. And that's what this focus keyword section is. It basically has a score for you out of 100, and you want to be over the 80 because that's in the greens. Obviously, the closer to 100, the better. But I always make sure that every single post that I do or any page that I create is above 80 in terms of their SEO, so that I can make sure it has the best opportunity to rank on a search engine. The last tool on here, I think it's the last one, is the Hemingway editor. And that's basically because I had previously talked about how we want to write around a 5th grade reading level. So anywhere between 4 and 6. And so the Hemingway editor is a free tool. You basically copy and paste your entire Google Doc or article or page or copy, whatever you're doing, into this. And it basically tells you what reading level you're currently at and what you can do to switch it. Sentences that are harder to read than others, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a great opportunity for those of you who are not necessarily familiar in writing at a 5th grade reading level or short, simple sentences, and you're used to writing maybe college essays or resumes or stuff like that. I highly recommend just checking a few articles and seeing where you're at and how you can make those little changes, so then eventually you won't need to use the Hemingway editor at all. Like I said, it's free. And it's a great way. I always recommend it to new team members or small business owners that are maybe writing their own blogs, blog articles, because it's a great tool to just see where you're at. And you would be surprised on how many people write at a college level, like reading level, and most people can't even understand that when they're actually trying to digest something. So marketing is telling the world you're a rock star. Content marketing is showing the world you are one. That's the importance of blog articles. That's the importance of writing content and great copy on your website. You can put all the fluff in there, but at the end of the day, if Google and Bing bots cannot search and find your website, it's doing nothing for you. So are there any questions? I am so happy to answer them. I know that was a little technical, but I'm happy to go back, answer any questions that you guys may have.